Sir Francis Galton was the father of fingerprints. He wrote a book titled Fingerprints in 1892. Dr. Henry Folds and Sir William Herschel are also credited for coming up with the idea of fingerprints. Sir Edward Henry proposed a classification system based on ridges, known as the Henry classification system. The NYC Civil Service adopted use of fingerprinting in 1901. The FBI was created in 1924 and has the largest fingerprint repository in the world.
No two fingerprints have the same characteristics. The U.S. requires 12 points of ID. Fingerprint remains unchanged during your lifetime due to the underlying dermal papillae beneath the skin. Ridge patterns give classification of fingerprints. Thomas and Anne Farrow owned a paint shop in South London. On March 27, 1905, Mr. Farrow was found dead on the floor of his shop. Upstairs, in the couple's bedroom, Anne lay, covered in blood and severely injured. She died a few days later. Police discovered 2 masks at the scene, indicating more than one intruder. A clear print was found that did not match either victim. 2 brothers known for burglary, Albert and Alfred Stratton, were taken into custody. They were identified by the Farrow's milkman. Strattons were taken to a police station, where a leading detective and a founding member of Scotland Yard's fingerprint branch rolled their fingers. The fingerprint from the scene matched Albert's right thumb perfectly. Both brothers were charged with murder. With fingerprints new to this time period, this conviction helped establish the legitimacy of fingerprint evidence.
When rolling fingerprints, special ink is used and an official fingerprint card as well. Number 1, thumbs get rolled inwards. Number 2, fingers get rolled outwards. Number 3, the roller rolls nail edge to nail edge. Number 4, the roller presses their off finger on the fingernail of the person's finger they are rolling. Number 5, don't thunk or drag fingers. Number 6, the fingerprint should look like a square.
Powder adheres to the oils in a latent print. Tap lid before opening powder. Pour a bit of the powder into the lid. Spread the dust evenly in the lid. Touch the tip of your brush to the powder in the lid, then tap to remove the excess powder. Spin the brush across the given surface. This can be done in 2 different ways. Do not bend the brush. Only the tip of the brush should be used. Go across the print about 2 times.
Tape is used to lift the dusted print off the given surface and then transferred to a card for analyzation. Start at the top of the fingerprint and gradually smooth the tape down to the bottom of the print at a 90-degree angle. This should be done slowly and at the correct angle to assure there are no air bubbles. Tape is lifted off surface at a 90-degree angle from bottom to top, then carefully transferred to a card. Transfer by starting at the top of the fingerprint on the tape and gradually smoothing it down to the bottom of the tape at a 90-degree angle.
Use a tank that has an open container of water inside and a hot plate with superglue. Objects suspected of fingerprints are placed inside the tank. The tank is run for 30 minutes. It is essential to cover the tank, usually with tinfoil, and goggles should be worn to prevent fumes from reaching eyes or being inhaled. This type of fingerprint collection is good for unusual shaped objects that cannot be dusted effectively. Superglue fuming leaves frost on the object, so it should be the last thing done with evidence. Ninhydrin spray is used on paper. It works by sticking to proteins in the oil of latent fingerprints. It results in purple or brown prints. Ninhydrin is sprayed 8 inches away, back and forth, soaking the paper. The paper should be dry for 5 minutes, but letting it dry overnight will yield the best results. Slowly move the paper a few inches above a hot plate to expose the prints. This should take about 25 minutes. Acetone can be used, but this makes the ink run, and xylene can be used, but it's more expensive.
Now you can see that the prints have appeared in a purple color, making it easier to analyze. Loops account for 60 to 65% of all fingerprints. They always have one delta. When the loop is pointing to the thumb, it's a radial loop, and when it's pointing to the pinky, it's an ulnar loop. Whorls account for 30 to 35% of all fingerprints. They have two deltas, and they are divided into four distinct groups: plain whorl, double loop whorl, central pocket loop, and accidental pattern. Arches account for 5% of all fingerprints. They have zero deltas, and there are two types: plain arch and tented arch.
Ridge ending, bifurcation, enclosure, dot, island, spur. Crossover. The system assigns a numerical value to each finger that contains a whorl pattern, shown in the table. Fingers with a non-whorl pattern, such as an arch or loop pattern, are counted as 0. The sum of the even finger values, top row, is placed in the numerator, and the sum of the odd finger values, bottom row, is placed in the denominator. The value of 1 is added to each sum of the whorls. The classification is a fraction between 1 over 1 to 32 over 32, where 1 over 1 would indicate no whorl patterns, and 32 over 32 would mean that all fingers had whorl patterns. Approximately 25% of the population falls into the 1 over 1 category.